There we go. Okay, so I have got a few slides just to run through, and then we can open the floor and take some questions. We've got a good number of people on, and hopefully there'll be some nice juicy questions for all these experts I see in front of me. So this is Ask Us Anything, this session. It's half an hour. We can cover any topic under the sun, basically, you know, within reason, within the domain of Power Apps and Dynamics 365 and Power Platform and all that kind of stuff. So problems, questions about previous sessions, whatever it might be. Now's the time to ask. So if I just go through my couple of slides, though, very quickly, but also, and very importantly, going to draw. I think we're ready-ish to do the draw for the feedback as well. So all of the sessions are finished now. And so now is the time, if you've not filled in any feedback yet, if you go to that link, either through the QR code, it works nicely on the phone, we're using Microsoft Forms. So you can fill that out on the phone. Now's the time to do that in the next few minutes, because at the end of this session, in about 20 minutes probably, we will do the draw for the winner, which is some awesome Lego, which it's like a London skyline kind of thing, Lego. And we will purchase that and send that to you, or at least the guys from Data 8 will, because they have provided the... Ian, I'm going to mute you because you're coming through, mate. Okay. Okay. Oh, phew. Right. So anybody that is not going to speak and is not on mute, if you could mute, that'd be great. So we don't get any feedbacky type stuff. But yes, fill in your feedback. I need to go and do this, but obviously it'd probably look a bit sus if I won the prize. So I'm going to do this later on. But really appreciate the feedback. Speakers really appreciate that, so that they can learn, they can improve, or they can just get some thanks for putting the session on. So fill that in, and you've got about probably 10 minutes, let's say, because we need to set the draw up as well. So
yeah. I'll do if I do cut off at 10 to, and then I'll wait for about 5 to. That's okay.
Okay, so that's 15 minutes. 15 minutes to go. Robert, I've just seen you've got a beer, and that's making me incredibly jealous now, because it's been a long day and a lot of talking for me. So I might sneak off and get one of those.
Well, I'm Austrian and it's late here in Austria, so.
Fair enough. I like your style. I just wanted to say thank you also to the user group sponsors. So these are the people, the companies that sponsor the user groups worldwide for D365UG. That's the CRM, CE side, and also F&O side as well, and provide the funding for, well, you know, obviously when we did in-person events, it was a lot more useful. They would pay for the catering, for example, and rooms and stuff like that. But generally they support the organisation that chairs D365UG worldwide. So thank you to them for their support. And also I wanted to do a very big thank you, not a quick thank you, but a big thank you to the team that has put this together today. So that's Emma, Trisha, Matt and Feridun. I'm not sure if Trisha's able to come back. She had a customer call that she needed to do this afternoon, but just heartfelt thanks from me, honestly, for the help in organising and running the event today, which is, I know, a lot of work and a lot of kind of jumping from one thing to the next. So I think a round of applause is due to say thanks very much.
But I shouldn't get what Andrew does as well.
Yeah,
you have a question
thanks.
already in the chat.
Okay, let me just run through these slides, and I will get back to that. Okay, I can't see the chat right now, but yeah, and then also obviously as well, this event would be nothing without speakers, obviously, who've given freely of their time to write sessions and then present the session today. And you know, there's no financial benefit to them, at least not directly, but no, I really appreciate them sharing their knowledge, and also I think they deserve a huge round of applause as well. So that'll be the last one of the day, but thank you very much, speakers. All of the sessions that we put on today have been recorded. I cross my fingers when I say that, and we'll post them on YouTube. So if you did miss a session because it clashed with one that you wanted to watch, or you had a meeting, whatever, you will get another chance to you know, go back and view that. And that is also, you know, that's good for speakers as well, because that helps you know, get some appreciation for the effort they've put in too. So that's why we like to post those. All right, quick plug, if I can see Mark is on the call. I know he probably doesn't want to talk too much about this, but I wanted to reiterate again, if you weren't in the session earlier, that this day today is 15 sessions, 16 including the roadmap. It's 3 tracks. It's a ton of work to put on, but Mark and Ian and another small team and a bunch of volunteers are putting on an event called Scottish Summit on the 27th of February 2021. Loads of the people here will be speaking or attending. It's a free event. It is 20 times bigger, more than 20 times bigger than what we've done today. It is going to be enormous and lots of fun. It's virtual, which is a bit of a shame, but for obvious reasons, and hopefully we can get back to doing this in person next year, the year after next, I guess. But yeah, make sure you register for that and get your free ticket. Mark, is there anything that you would like to say at this point?
No, just scottsummit.com, you'll get your ticket. Just kind of want to throw that back at Andy and say well done for putting on such an amazing day today. He does quite a lot of work and sometimes just totally doesn't get any of the credit for it and just sneaks away under the limelight. So I actually think Andy is due a big round of applause for this as well.
Oh, thank you. Very good.
But yeah, scottsummit.com, get your tickets.
It's fabulous. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so another quick plug for the feedback there, if you haven't already got the URL and filled that in. I think then if I'm running through my slides. I can't even speak now. I've been speaking for so long, but if you need the URL, there it is. Now is the time to answer some questions then. So how do we want to do this? Does somebody want to read them out?
Do you want me to read them out, Andrew?
Yeah, so if anybody's asked a question and they want to just come off mute and ask it, that'd be great as well.
Well, Sophie's got a question. So Sophie, if you'd rather do it in person, feel free, or otherwise I'll read it out for you.
Thank you. My question, which won't be a surprise to Andrew, is around data retention. As I seem to be discovering a rat's nest, I thought it would be a relatively straightforward process to have a data retention policy, and this started around database storage, increasing charges, thinking about SharePoint, and then starting to look at specific entities, tables, and started to say, well, okay, well, if it's an event, how long do we keep data for? In some cases, we could keep it for 6 years because we follow accounts. But I'm just sort of looking for any advice, really, as to what other guys have seen out in the industry and whether there's any advice, because it seems to be quite a time-consuming thing that I don't seem to be finding a simple way to resolve it.
I'd say your starting point is, what does the business need? Forget the technology, forget the storage. You know, if you're doing all this on paper, what does your business need? Do you have any legal rules, auditory rules to say you need to keep this stuff for X amount of time? That, I think, is the starting point. And then from there, once you've got an idea, then you can start mapping that into what do you do with dynamics. And, you know, are you going to use manual processes just every now and again, once a year, go and do a bit of a tidy up? You could use bulk delete jobs to run occasionally. Or do you want to take data out of Dynamics and dump it into somewhere else that's perhaps less costly? And then, you know, the different types of things could be more or less easily got at. You know, there's the data export service, but that costs you money because you've got to pay for an Azure SQL database or spin up your own in Azure. And then, you know, there are all sorts of options in terms of getting rid of data, and where do you put it, or do you just literally delete it? You know, a lot of the people I work with just keep everything forever. And, you know, I only just persuaded someone to get rid of audit logs that were older than 6 years. So, you know, it really depends on the business and what their attitude is to hoarding stuff. And then you can start looking at what to do. I'm sure there are other views as well.
No, I agree. I think you're this is Jim. The question first is, what are your needs of the customer? Because the next step is, you have to look at, do you want a data warehouse type system, and how are they going to look at that archive data? right? So if you don't, because if you have gigabytes, if not terabytes of data, and it's not relevant to the active system, what's the performance on keeping it in there for day-to-day users versus, okay, cool, I'm going to dump it. Let's say I dump it into SQL Server. Okay, what if I need to look at it, right? Do I need to preserve business rules for viewing archival data? I'm actually working on a project right now where we took a legacy system, rebuilt it in Dynamics, and then I came on, and what I'm doing is migrating this old Oracle data into Dynamics. But what we did is we built a parallel set of entities that wouldn't contend with the day-to-day operations. May or may not be the best solution, but it's a solution. One thing we did, so we actually archived it in Dynamics in the same database, ballooned out the database, but we designed it in a way so that it wouldn't contend with their day-to-day operations. So just that's something to consider with the archival data if they need to see it. The rule we had is 7 years, right? Because it's a government agency and they have to keep it around for 7 years. Okay, now cool, it's all there, right? They can look at it, they can easily browse it. But that would be the next question is if you decide to remove it and not delete it, but have a data warehouse, you have an extra set of requirements on how to access it and peruse the data, let's say.
And one comment to make on that is not all your data is going to be exactly the same. So there might be some records you need to keep for 6 years. There might be some data that's transactional data that's only 30 days. So try not to kind of make one policy for all bits of data. Because if you're an FSA regulated body, yes, there are certain things, but other areas of the system, like I spoke to Jim last Tuesday. Do you need to know that in 6 months' time, a year's time? And is it files or is it record data? So is it file storage you're looking at or historic data? Because there's the option of using data export service to put it into, I know Ferdinand mentioned Azure SQL database, but you can actually do it a lot cheaper in Cosmos DB.
Yep.
So Cosmos DB, I mean, your price is about a tenth of the cost of a SQL server database. And there's also the case of looking in at virtual entities if you still need to have the information there as well. So there's a few different options of pulling that in quite neatly that doesn't hamper really the user experience.
Yeah, I think at the moment we're at risk of too much data, so they're not actually seeing value in the data that's in there.
Yeah.
I like what Mark said about identifying data that's not relevant, but then that immediately puts into my mind is how do you decide what's not relevant?
That's back on the business.
Yeah, exactly. Two really good points there. I think I like the virtual entity, virtual tables, whatever they're called now, idea for that presentation view. To Jim's point that it's all well and good storing it somewhere else, then actually getting people access to that is something else. So maybe you could build like a model-driven app on top of your virtual entities. That would be a potential option there. And then I'm so tired I've forgotten the other point. So sorry about that. It's one of those things. Oh yeah, requirements. Like the closer you look at it, the more things you find that you need to consider. So always go back to requirements. As Ferdinand said at the start, and push back.
Yeah, but they said that the
requirements.
business often doesn't know what it wants.
Yeah,
well, that's normal, isn't it? There's a completely new question now from David Robertson. If you want to move on, unless Sophie wants to come back, sorry.
Look, that's good. It's given me a few pointers to consider, so thank you.
I reckon there's a huge market for ISVs on this. I did know actually somebody
you're giving me an idea, Andrew.
Worked for an ISV that did this data retention stuff. Not even this, data residency as well, where you've got different rules for Germany and Singapore and massively complicated, but I'm pretty sure they went out of business before they sold anything. So anyway, on
case for something very simple. Do you want me to read out the next question?
Yeah, David's just there. So if you wanted to ask David, it's up to you.
Go for it.
Or you're on mute, David.
Hi everyone. Should be unmuted now. I've got a question for Robert. Awesome, thank you. Got a question for Robert Prohl. How do you manage your solutions to minimize deployment time for complex enterprise projects? And also, what is your environment management strategy for multiple devs with source controlling and deployment of different requirements across these solutions?
Wow.
Well, okay. I just read the question in the chat. Basically, I always recommend to have multiple solutions depending on the components. So the basic thing here is you should have a separated solution for your entities and, for example, for your workflows, plugins, and web resources. But most important thing is the entities, because sometimes when you have a large solution with many, many entities and you need to apply upgrades, which basically means you have to delete some stuff. You import the solution as a whole solution and say apply upgrades. And sometimes this process can fail and you will receive a timeout or something, and then you have a big problem, because actually you don't have any possibility to investigate the real changes and you can't delete it. So what you can do here, and this is the real benefit, you have multiple solutions. It doesn't matter, you can just delete the other solutions and try to apply the upgrade again, because for the system, it's much easier if you just have a few solutions. So for example, workflows, there's no dependency. You can uninstall the solution and you will not lose any data. And then you can try to uninstall as many solutions as possible, and then you can just try to apply the update again. So basically, I know the whole thing is a little bit more complicated, but basically, I recommend to have multiple solutions. So I think 5 or 6 is perfect. And regarding this part of the question, how do you manage different teams? So I think there are 2 strategies. I try to keep my answer short, but usually you can. But if you have 10 team members, you can say, okay, let's go for one system and everyone is working on the system. But then it's very important to notify the other team members via group chats or something when you start a deployment or publish customizations or something. And another strategy is you have one centralized customizing system and every developer has his own system, and then you have to distribute the changes. But don't try to do that manually. Always install multiple pipelines and say, okay, each developer can deploy the solutions from the customizing system to its own development instance, and then you can push it back. So there are 2 different strategies, but really depends on your team size.
Oh, it was just a bit better today. She's gone back to work, and something about looking after Tom and him being wiped out by it all. So that's good. Thinking about somebody else is really positive.
Like somebody's unmuted when they shouldn't have. But David, is that an answer? This is quite a big question, I feel, and there's different ways of doing it, and maybe that's the point of the question. But yeah, it's like I'm taking the approach actually, which is slightly different, which is app-based solutions, but that can result in big solutions for like common components. That is the recommended approach from Microsoft, but I've actually yet to try that in anger with DevOps. So we'll see what happens. I've done it the way Robert suggests as well.
Yeah, that's really helpful. We do something similar. We also do something similar. A lot of it comes down to communication and stuff like that. We source control our code and make sure we clean it, and we're building it from the source controlled code and a Git and stuff like that. So just wanted to see what the other strategies are out there and see if there's anything different for there. Have you ever found that it can get kind of the deployment time can increase as the more development you have, though, sort of thing? Sometimes it can get quite long. I was wondering if you had any solutions for that problem.
Well, first of all, I would like to say, yeah, so there's another question about managed solutions. Yeah, always go for the managed approach. Yeah, don't deploy any unmanaged stuff on your production system. Yeah, development things and everything. But if you would like to increase the deployment times, yeah, always make sure that you have something of a nightly build, because I know it's not directly related, but if you don't have a nightly build, yeah, you can't make sure that for example, if you have to apply change or delete fields, yeah, some legacy stuff, yeah, you will lose a lot of time. So basically what you can do is you have your main CI/CD pipeline, and then you can add additional pipelines for minor changes and hot fixes. And so you can deploy actually a lot of stuff in a very fast way. And the second approach is you have your main pipelines in Azure DevOps, and you can deploy on your local machine as well, but you need specific tools for that. So you have 2 different things. You have the main pipeline in DevOps and the second pipeline, which runs on your computer. Then you can just deploy single solutions, yeah, and don't have to wait for the other stuff or dependencies.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's not the whole thing, but the topic is very complex. And well, I'm really happy if you would like to get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I can explain the details, but I think we don't have enough time here in this call. Yeah,
yeah. Wasn't there a very detailed white paper on this area from Microsoft 2, 3, 4 years ago? enterprise development or something for dynamic.
Yeah, there has been a white paper that's a little bit out of date now. I think there have been a couple of sessions at Ignite and the previous conferences that are still around that go into it in a bit more detail. At least Microsoft's recommended approach. But yeah, big topic. I'm not sure we skirted on the managed versus unmanaged discussion, and that's as close as I want to get to that, because we could do a whole day on that, couldn't we? Maybe that's an idea for next time. But yeah, so hopefully that's helpful. Just looking at any other questions coming in.
Do you want me to stay on the screen and do the draw while you're doing that?
Yeah, so are we ready to do the draw for the excellent Lego?
In honour of our alumni, nope, didn't want to share that. That was my old API key, don't need to see that anymore. In honour of, oh my gosh, what is going on? Share the right thing. This just sums up how my day's gone today. There we go. There we go. In honour of Scott, we found his old wheel. So here we go. So everyone ready? That worked. That's progress. It's the best thing we've done today. Ilyas.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ilyas, well done. Congratulations. Round of applause for Ilyas.
Awesome.
He has won.
Yay!
I'll get in touch with you after this, and we'll just send it straight to you. No point sending it to me and sending it onwards. So we'll get it shipped over straight to you. So well done.
Well done. Yes, and I mean, I guess
we want to see the built model at the next meeting.
I'll
Please,
get on it straight away.
Pictures, take a picture, and then we'll post it on Twitter and stuff. Yeah, thank you, and thank you for everyone to filling in the feedback as well. It's super useful for presenters, and useful for us as well. So absolutely give us feedback about how you think the day's gone, things that we could do or couldn't do or shouldn't do or anything else. But yeah, any other questions? Environment strategy. Okay, that's getting into. Oh, that was David's. So does anybody on have any questions for anybody else about their sessions? Excellent gift, thank you, Ilyas. Okay, I mean, we can carry on chatting, and actually social time is in 5 minutes. If we want to hang around and get a drink, I certainly will be doing that. Jessica, thank you for you've been asking questions all the way through, which is great. Thank you for coming along. I know you've been around all day, which is not expected for everybody, but that's great stuff. We've got Scott coming in from the States. We've got Robert from Austria. If there's no more questions, I'm very happy to start. I was going to say start drinking. I can't really deny that, to be honest. I've been standing up for about 8 hours because I have a stand-up desk now. And so, yes.
Well, we're in Austria. We are UTC +1, so I was allowed to drink earlier.
You don't start in the morning.
It's fine. Okay. Well, we have all these experts on the call, so is there literally nothing else that anybody wants to talk about?
How many more times will the product change its name next year?
What do we think about that? I can't answer that question.
Oh, God.
I've given up caring. I've given up caring. It's just pointless, isn't it? They'll do what they want to do.
Yeah. They'll do it. They'll change it the number of times they've changed it +1.
Yep.
What's awesome is that they'll convince us that the name is right as well, and we'll all agree with it.
Yeah, they're gonna keep changing it until morale improves, guys. So,
Don't
get name changes or else.
Yeah, stop with the called entities. I mean,
what do you think about the entity? Yeah, table, entity, column.
That's a regression to me. After spending so many years of saying it's more than just a database, we decided it's a database term.
I wouldn't care if everything was named like in my demo, Ferridan, I don't know if you saw those parts where it still says common data service in certain areas of customer voice, and it still talks about entity names and things like that. So it's just I find that really hard in terms of like, it's fine when I'm doing a blog post because I can just whatever. But when you're doing a presentation and you're like, okay, in Dataverse, and it clearly says Common Data Service.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
That's the frustrating part. It's not actually all the way through everything yet.
Sure.
Yeah, I thought they'll learn their lesson and just have those variables in all of those things. This is the label for this, and we will change it in one.
Is the MCT material. I've actually downloaded all the MCT material that I've needed for the next 3 months, and I've actually gone in and updated every single one of them. And I've even copied out the pictures and like pasted text over pictures, just so that it doesn't look stupid.
Goodness. But that entity thing, I find it pointless. I haven't seen the justification for it, and I'm just thinking all those poor people that have done documentation, videos, have ingrained it in themselves for the last 15, 20 years. Why? I mean,
it's the simplification. It's like someone was saying earlier, it's getting away from a term that people don't understand into a term with tables and rows and columns that people not of our kin,
non-techies,
Dataverse or the citizen developers can understand. And that's all it is, and then flowing that through.
Well, perhaps they can go and simplify licensing then.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think that the point there is, isn't it? It's kind of the drive to get a lot more users onto it, and it's about bringing across that community, that people who've done things in Access or Excel, and kind of that Oakdale or that Dataverse in Teams, that kind of whole transition, just to open up that pathway into Dataverse, rather than it's this beast that no one understands and what's an entity. It's that user base thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, I need to go, guys. It was very nice seeing everyone. So enjoy your social hour or whatever.
Ferdinand, thank you for all your help as usual.
Oh, you're welcome.
We should probably have a catch-up call just when we've all rested a bit more.
Take some rest first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you look rough.
He's had a long day. Right.
I thought he was ill. I was like, oh, you're poorly. No, just need some sleep.
Yeah, I'm a little bit run down. But no, thanks, Ferdinand. See you soon.
Thank you, Ferdinand.
Take care, all. I'm out as well. Bye.
Yeah.
See you, Elias.
Bye, guys.
Well done.
Take care. Well done.
Thanks.
See you, Dirk. Thanks for your help or chipping in on sessions during the day. And thank you, Sophie. Always a pleasure to see you. Sophie actually lives or works about 4 miles away from me, and we met in London at a user group in London, and I had no idea, and she had no idea. You know, she's literally, I could probably walk to where she worked. Yeah, it's cool to meet people. Thank you, Jim. Thanks for your session. That was great. And see you guys again. It's up to you. Do you want to go and grab a drink and just shoot? I was going to say shoot the shit. I will just turn off the recording. Yeah. Okay.